All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, hello and welcome to Gupta Technologies webinar on creating mobile apps quickly and easily for your Infor visual environment. This is your host, Matt Brunquell. So we often get asked if we're an Indian company because of our name, Gupta Technologies, and we are not. For those of you new to Gupta, we are a US-based software company with over 30 years of experience in database development tools and modernization technologies. And as visual customers, you may be aware that Visual is developed in our Team Developer product. We're headquartered in Northern California with customers, partners, and offices worldwide. So the objective for today's webinar is to show you how easy it can be to build mobile applications. And we'll spend a few minutes on what makes up a mobile enterprise app, the challenges trying to build these, and what can be done to make the development less complicated. And we'll follow this with a general demo of TD Mobile and continue with a demo from Synergy, an Infor visual partner, so you can see a specific example of connecting to a visual data source. And with that, we'll start with what makes up a mobile enterprise application. So a mobile enterprise application is not a game, and in most cases, it's not a business-to-consumer application available to the general public. So what is a mobile enterprise application? We're going to illustrate it here with a real-world example of an Infor visual customer. One of our partners, Gary Greenwood, built a cycle count app that is used by advanced turning and manufacturing in their two plants. And users can key in the plant location with a part location app. The user clicks Get, and a list of parts in that location are displayed. And the user runs the cycle count app on a regular basis to kind of create the parts to be counted. And the login screen has ties to the employee table of the visual HR system as well. And once they log in, the next screen shows the warehouse and number of parts to count, as well as the parts that have counted so far. And then once the part is selected and the details are shown, they can enter in the cycle count at the bottom. And I've got an example of one of the screens here. So this app really makes their job easier to do and makes their inventory count much more accurate and up to date than how they were doing it previously, which was just doing a count annually. And this app, which has multiple screens and ties into the visual database source, was built in less than a week. And Gary, who I mentioned, who built the app, had little mobile experience prior to this project. So now that we have an example, let's review the key characteristics of mobile enterprise applications. So there's four key areas, and in mobile enterprise applications, the users are employees or other businesses like customers or partners. Examples include sales and order tracking, various field service operations like inspections and repair services, and inventory management, just like the example we illustrated. Many organizations are faced with supporting multiple devices and display sizes because employees bring their own devices, or, in the case of business to business, the organization cannot dictate what devices the other businesses will use. And certain device capabilities are needed as well, which is that second column. And the four most common ones for enterprise apps are the camera, GPS, barcode scanning, and electronic signature. And this turns out to be a key point because those four capabilities can be accessed without having to build a native or hybrid mobile app. Those can be accessed via web-based mobile development. And the reason this is key is web-based mobile development makes it much easier to support the different devices and display sizes. Now, business-to-employee and business-to-business apps, like the examples we just mentioned, typically need to access corporate data sources that already exist. So we're kind of moving into the third column here. And in addition, because corporate data is being accessed or created, security is a key concern because this is sensitive data to the company. Another characteristic we see is the need for offline capabilities. And now this is usually more specific to business-to-employee applications where the users are working in areas for, at least some part of the time that has limited access to a network. And this capability can be supported, the offline capability, with web-based mobile apps as well. So in building these enterprise apps, there are three types of development tool options for development. And the first one is native, where you develop with device-specific tool sets. A hybrid, the second one listed there, is using a tool like PhoneGap, for example, to transform an HTML5-based app into an app that can be distributed as a native application. And then the third one is often referred to as MWeb, but is basically mobile web application development. Now, each option has its strengths and weaknesses. However, there's a lot of noise out there around these three, and you need to make sure you understand where the real strengths and weaknesses are as they pertain to your requirements. The differences between MWeb from native and hybrid that was considered a weakness in the past has changed considerably in the last 2 years. You know, a good example of this is that device integration that we mentioned in the last slide. And then the gap on offline capabilities, as I mentioned, has narrowed quite a bit as well. So here are some examples of the current strengths and weaknesses of each of these. So for native, strengths include access to all device features at a very low level and full offline capability. Now the weaknesses include the need for developers with programming experiences in the languages for the device you're going to deploy on. And if you're doing multiple devices, then you need to have developers with skill sets for the languages for each of those devices, like Object-C for iOS, or Java for Android, and C# for Windows mobile devices. There's a lot of development effort to get an app working across the different devices and increased maintenance costs as a result. The other weakness is that distribution through an app store is also required. So if you don't want the application public, then you're going to have to set up a corporate app store if you go this native route. Now on hybrid, the app is built, as I mentioned, as a web app but deployed as a native app. The strength is that portions of the code are reusable across multiple devices. But a weakness is that you're going to have the same distribution issues like the App Store that you have with native, because that's how you're deploying it. It also requires, when you go the hybrid route, doing native tool chains, which add additional costs into your development and requires learning how to use them. Now on MWeb, by using HTML5 and its browser APIs, the strength here is you can get a lot of the capabilities now of hybrid native applications in terms of device integration and offline, but with much easier distribution and maintenance. The performance also turns out to be better than hybrid, as operating systems often use older technology for the hybrid apps. The primary weakness of MWeb, though, is that you're dependent on the level of HTML5 support that the browsers have incorporated. And kind of what we've seen, and there's websites out there that you can go to that actually they track that for whatever device you may want to deploy on. What we've seen, though, in general is that with our customers so far that are using this, is Google and Chrome seem to fully support the HTML5 APIs, but on Internet Explorer they still fall short in a few places. So just be mindful of that when you go the mobile web route. So regardless of which of these options you choose, most of the approaches today for each of these three options are complicated because you need to use multiple and complex technologies, and often each of these require a specialist. So on the front end, you need to work with JavaScript, HTML5, and CSS, and then on the back end, you have to work with something like Java or .NET or PHP, to code the back end logic and services. In addition to the low-level coding kind of involved with these technologies, you're also working with different tool sets that are producing different files, and then it's up to you to manage how they fit together and how you effectively test and deploy the components. The other area I want to touch on this slide, it's got the four areas, is really the data transfer piece, because enterprise apps are often heavily data-driven as well. So many of the tools and technologies out there today only address the front end, and you have to code the back-end connections and data bindings. There are some solutions that try to deal with this by providing a data source in the cloud for your application, but this really doesn't address the need to access corporate data that you have, on premise, or, sensitive data that you or your customer is just not comfortable putting into the cloud at this point. So with those challenges, how can you simplify mobile enterprise app development? This slide really shows the 4 key areas that can make mobile enterprise app development much easier and accessible to the developers in your organization, whether they already have mobile skill sets or not. And we'll use a demonstration of our product, TD Mobile, to highlight how these principles come together. But just, let's take a minute here to give you a little background on TD Mobile so you have some context going into the demo. So at a high level, when you read through the bullets on this slide, these are the advantages of TD Mobile we hear the most from our customers. And note that the first line says single and complete. There are solutions out there that market themselves as complete, but they're not, once you actually dig into them, they're not unified into a single system that is easy for a developer to use. And this is just part of what makes TD Mobile accessible to general developers with little or no prior experience with mobile development. The easy connection to data sources is also popular, as you'll see in the demo. Customers also find that the ROI is much more straightforward to determine on these mobile projects that they're starting out with TD Mobile, since there's only an upfront cost for the development license, and there's no runtime license fees, regardless of how many users you may end up deploying to worry about. Now, so that's kind of at a high level. Let's just take a moment on some of the more specific things you're going to see in the demo for you to keep in mind. So TD Mobile has one of the first, is kind of one of the first mobile IDEs to provide a ribbon bar for the developer for very fast access to the features. Apps are designed using the many built-in controls, and they're all specialized for mobile apps. So from text fields, list views, and combo boxes, to more complex controls like charts and maps. TD Mobile also makes testing and debugging super easy. Just a click of a button on the ribbon bar is all you need to kind of compile and test your app. It also includes an easy to configure and use deployment wizard, so you can configure an app icon that will be used, on the smartphones and tablets as the icon to launch the app, the web app. And because TD Mobile apps are web apps, they're hosted on Windows IIS web servers when you deploy them, so you have total control over the deployment process. So, when you want to distribute an app update to your app, they're effective immediately to 100% of your users, so because you don't have to go through an App Store approval process, and you don't have to make sure individual users have downloaded, the upgraded version once you put it out there. It's going to happen automatically. The other area, I think, is a very powerful part of this that you'll see is that TD Mobile apps support every display size desired, so from smartphone displays to large tablet displays. And the apps that you build like this will automatically scale to the resolution of the device. You don't have to code that in there. And additionally, developers can design separate screens for tablets and smartphones for an app just to accommodate for the difference in the screen real estate without having to recode the business logic behind these screens. Language localization is built into TD Mobile also, so developers can provide caption strings in as many languages as they wish. And at runtime, it's built in, the TD Mobile app decides on what language to use depending on the device locale. And we've actually done this with the IDE itself as well. So we already have the IDE available in 7 different languages. And usually people ask what the 7 are, so I'll tell you. It's Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, Japanese, and Dutch. And then those are 6 in addition to the English. And just as a little note, we have customers now, I want to say, and Horst will be able to remind me, but I want to say it's in over 32 different countries already across these languages. The other area is to keep in mind during the demo is the connections to corporate data and back-end services. It's extremely easy to configure. So instead of having developers handwrite code to handle the data connections and transfer of data from the user interface to the back-end data source, they can be defined very quickly and easily using a wizard-like interface, which we'll show you. And the data connections can be configured with commonly used SQL databases like SQL Base, SQL Server, Oracle. We've added the ability for popular NoSQL databases even, which is very popular in the mobile world, like MongoDB or standard XML. And TD Mobile can also help with data sources that aren't commonly supported. One example I have in here is an RSS feed as a data source. We actually have a sample app of that. So with that, I just wanted to give you kind of a flavor of what you're going to see, just to give you some context. But with that, we'll go ahead and go into the TD Mobile demo. And we'll start by showing you a completed mobile app and then go through the IDE to show you how easily an app can be built. Now, to drive this demo portion, I'm going to introduce Horst De Lorenzi. He is our Director of Development for our development tools here at Gupta and is the original creator of TD Mobile. And give me 1 second, Horst, and I'm going to turn over presentation roles to you.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Horst. As Matt said, I'm going to give you a quick demo of TD Mobile. To start with, before I actually go into the TD Mobile integrated development environment, which is what you can see up right now, I'm just going to run a simple demo app for you just to show you the look and feel of the kind of app you can build really easily with TD Mobile. This is an application that uses one of our internal sort of demo databases called Island. It mimics a small apparel company with certain products and customers and employees and so on. And so with this application here, you can drill down into a certain customer of the company, look at information about them, look at invoices about them, examine different invoices, edit the values and save them to the items on the invoices. And in a minute, when I show you the actual code for this, you're going to see how little code there actually is. It's just kind of an application where you're basically accessing business data, presenting it on the screen, and allowing people to do create, read, update, delete on the data, or to kick off some business logic. Is really, really easy to do simply in TD Mobile. And you can have, don't get too hung up on the exact look and feel. This particular look here is one of the themes. There's 5 different themes built in, but you can also completely design your own theme. So if you want whatever colors you want, whatever kind of roundedness or hover effects you want, is all very easy to apply. And actually, it doesn't really require you to touch any of the code of your app. It's all contained in a separate CSS file. There's a full suite of controls available in TD Mobile for making your pages, which I'll show you in just a minute. So that's a simple real-world example, interacting with a database, pulling, showing, and modifying the data of your business. Here we have the IDE of TD Mobile. At a very high level, what you can see, as Matt mentioned, is across the top is the ribbon bar, which is an unusual feature for an integrated development environment. But it really makes it easy to get very quickly at all the settings of your application. Down the left-hand side is kind of the standard Explorer tree that you find in a lot of applications with the different categories of objects within your application listed here, grouped together. And then depending on which object you've selected within this tree, you'll get some kind of a pane here in the center part of the IDE. One of the things I think that I heard Matt mention was we do have the IDE available in a number of different languages: English, German, French, Japanese, Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish. This is the actual IDE, not the applications you write in it. And so all the text and all these buttons, fields, and so on, even the names of all the properties and properties windows are all localized depending on the language you have selected. And there's a lot of kind of power features like the ability to put bookmarks into your code, advanced find, search, and replace tools, things you'd expect, you know, from a highly productive IDE. The TD mobile application is a web app, and so by definition, there's a client portion to the application, which is actually what is running in the browser of the user, and then there's a server portion, which is the database interaction layer and any business logic that you have encoded. And although you have these two worlds, we have designed TD Mobile to integrate them together so you're not really too aware of them while you're coding. It's all presented as a unified whole. For example, if I were to click on a specific web page in the application and switch to the outline view, you can see here that although we separate the code and the objects of that web page into client and server to keep it organized, they are listed together underneath that one web page object. So it's easy to think in terms of this is this web page. It shows the details of a company, and within that web page object, I've got both client pieces and server pieces, but they're organized together into that one web page. Here on the client side of your web page, you've got your contents, which are the controls, bindings, which are kind of the heart of how we do data transfer within TD mobile application, sort of a magic variable with logic to transfer its value to and from the various operations on the servers that you invoke, and also to and from the controls on the page. And then you have events that you can react to both at the page level and within each control. And the code underneath these events is through our own event action system. These are high-level commands that can be hooked together and nested to perform the most common tasks that you would do. For example, here on the create of the page, I'm going to invoke one of my operations on the server, which you can see listed right here. Or on the click of this button, I'm going to navigate to this other page. And it's through the combination of these event actions and through the binding that we achieve this sort of holy grail for us of little to no client-side programming. That's one of the main goals of TD Mobile, is to make writing web applications really accessible quickly and easily to people who don't already have a huge background in web development, whether it's HTML, JavaScript, CSS, or whatever. I think we've definitely achieved that. And then down here, as I mentioned, underneath the server node, you would have functions. So this is all code that's running on the server side. These get generated as .NET Web Services, although it's not really something that the end user can see. And you have functions here which remain internal to the server. So this is where you put any kind of utility routines. And then operations are a kind of method that is invocable from the client side through AJAX at a low level. But from your coding standpoint, all you say is invoke. And for each of the parameters, you specify binding, and we take care of all the data transfer to and from that operation, including for the return value. The actual code inside the operation or inside the function on the server side is through our own native .NET language called SAL, which is roughly resembles kind of a Visual Basic type look, but presented here in the outline again, so a nice, clean, organized return. We also have available, as I'll show a little later in the demo, the ability to just skip this kind of hand coding and add another kind of operation called a data operation, where you simply specify the tables and the columns in your database and what binding you want to put them in, and you can have access to that data without any coding at all. So that's the code side of a page. Of course, you need a design too, and for that you would switch to the layout tab down here. One thing I should mention up front is you can have more than one layout per page. This is a really interesting, powerful feature of CD Mobile. You can design a tablet version of a page and a phone version of the page without recoding the page. You still only have one page in your project, but you can have two different looks for it. You can move the controls completely around, change their captions, change their sizes and locations, and yet have the actual logic, the event actions, the operations be the same. This is great for providing a customized look, especially if you have you're going to offer a phone version of the page where the real estate is much less. Within the page here, it's designed. It's simply a matter of picking the control you want, like a button, and just dragging it down, and you'll see the locations where you can drop it. It's sort of an automated stack panel approach where you can put things above or below other objects. But there are also containers like a layout grid that you can drop in. If you have two cells, and then you can take your button and move it into that cell. So it's all very drag and drop, very automated. Things automatically resize. They resize based on the display. You're not sitting there fussing over one pixel to the left or one pixel to the right. You can throw together a screen really, really quickly. And there's a full set of rich controls here, including a map control for displaying maps and points of interest on the map, really fancy chart controls for nice business graphics, links to other pages. And this link here, by the way, can also hook into the phone system, the GPS system, whatever, if they're available on the device. And all the usual things, combo boxes, Xboxes, radio buttons, and so on. The values of most of these things are actually set using bindings. There's no coding required. Once you've populated your bindings, that data can go straight into that control and be displayed. And then for the greatest amount of the customization, we do have a generic HTML control you can drop in and then type in whatever HTML you want. So if there's some control we don't offer, that's okay. You can just post it right there in that HTML control. And then, of course, there's a properties window over here. And these windows are all dockable, floatable, and rearrangeable. And that's context sensitive. So depending on the control you click on, you can change all the properties over here. The visibility and the enabledness of these controls is also controllable with bindings. So you can say, you know, only have this button visible if this binding has a value, or you can see if you go to the bindings tab, there's all kinds of properties you can set in the binding. You can say, you know, only show this field if the value is greater than 10. Some of the other things you'll notice here on the left, there are a bunch of resources that you can add at the server level. You can define global variables, constants, global functions, global operations, things that are not specific to one page, connections to databases, exceptions. There's a whole web reporting feature I wish I had time to go into. And then here on the client part, there's some global client things you can look at. For example, we do have you know, the ability, if you are a power user, you can import your own style sheets and use them. You can import your own JavaScript libraries, and you can edit those things, as Matt was saying. This is all integrated together, so you can edit those style sheets, edit those libraries right here in the IDE with our color-coded editor. There's no need to constantly switch out to other applications in order to maintain these various resources. So the last thing I want to demo here is, I was going to demo some automated building of no-code data access. But I should mention first real quickly, as Matt said, we do offer the integration to the GPS. We offer it to the camera if the device has one, to the accelerometer on the device, the address book. So this is a lot of stuff that HTML5 has made available now to web applications. It's really nice. And also I want to mention before this last little demo that we have an integrated security system. So you can simply tag certain pages as requiring security. You authenticate, and then if a user goes to that page without having authenticated already, they'll be redirected to your login page of choice. And we have a simple function you can call to place the encrypted security token on their device, and then they can visit these pages. We also have a whole role system where you can define roles for your application and group users into roles and restrict page access by roles. So we make the whole, locking down of the app really easy for you. All right, enough talk. Let me bring up a blank application here. I just want to show you some very quick and easy data access using the no-coding data access. The way you do that here is you go into your connections, and I'm going to add a new connection, and choose SQL. SQL Base is our own database provider, and I happen to have one running here on my machine, so I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to make a new class, a new data class from that connection. Call it company. And I'm going to choose that new connection. Now WebEx is doing very strange things to my dialog box. I'm going to pick the table. Sorry about this blinking thing. WebEx is playing games on me here. Once I pick the connection, it automatically showed me all the tables within that connection. And once I pick the table, it shows all the columns, and I can pick how I want the variables in my new class to be named. There's going to be one variable for each column. I'm also going to mark one of these as the unique ID field within that table. Okay. And here I've got my new company created with my one field marked as an identity field. And now what I can do is I can go up to my new page wizard here, and I'm going to just make a set of web pages based off of that connection and that data class really quickly. I'm going to pick my class. I'm going to say, make me 3 pages, a list of companies, a detail for a specific company, and an edit page. And I'm going to say, use that new connection when you're developing the code for the page. And then here I can pick which fields I want on the detail and edit pages and what I want the captions to be. I'm just going to go ahead and just take all the defaults there. And I'm going to, in my list view page, I'm just going to say, let me just show the company names. Now you can see here underneath pages, I've got 3 new pages that were created: company edit, company detail, and company list. If you look in here, we auto-generated not only the controls, but the bindings needed, the invocation of the data operation. This is what I was mentioning earlier. These data operations are a no-code operation where you simply specify the connection, the action you want, and the binding that's going to receive the data. And we take care of all the rest for you. And you can mix and match within one web page. Maybe there's certain kinds of data flow that are very simple. You don't want to have to do it all by hand, so you just use a data operation. But if you have some more complicated business logic, or you have multiple transactions that you want dependent on each other, or some other business logic, then you can certainly hand code your operation too. All right, so let me just set my default page here to the company list. And save it. So you can see right off the bat, I must have left the phone number in. We've got our list page showing all the companies in the company table, and I can click on a specific company, and it goes to my detail page, and I can click on edit, and it'll go to the edit page. So it's a very quick jump start. I can then go now and customize all these pages as I want, but that gives you an example with that particular table, how within about 1 minute I had kind of a read, update, delete scenario working in my browser. I think that'll do it, Matt. Unless I missed something.
Great. No, thanks. What we want to do now is I wanted to add another, we talked about a specific Infor visual customer, in the presentation, and I wanted to add a component of that to the demo as well. And so I invited Synergy, an Infor visual partner, to participate in the webinar today as well. So what I'd like to do is introduce Mark Lilly and give him presentation control so you can see what he's done with TD Mobile, actually connecting to a visual data source. And just give me 1 second. I got to find Mark on the list here and make him a panelist, and then change his role to presenter. And Mark, I guess I need to make sure you are off mute as well, so or make sure you're on audio so that folks can hear you speak. So I've made Mark the presenter. We just need to see, we need to make sure he can get in on audio. I'm not sure if he's on audio yet or not. And then he should be able to show his screen. Mark, are you there? Oh, there we go.
There I am.
Yay,
Good.
All right.
Well, Matt and Horst, yeah, thanks for the opportunity for me to show the very small application I did. I wish I'd seen Horst's demonstration prior to, because wow, he just created those 3 pages super fast. That was very impressive. I did it a little bit more manually, so it took me a little longer. But I do want to, if you don't mind, Matt, if you have a few minutes, I just want to step back and talk a little bit about Gupta and SQL Windows in the context of visual.
Absolutely.
So my dad started visual in 1992, and at the time he had already created a couple other ERP packages. So at that time there were a lot of things coming together. Certainly SQL was getting much more popular. Relational databases were really a must, getting away from the hierarchical proprietary databases to make information easier to get in and out of databases. Client server and PC networks were emerging. So my dad and his development team looked around, and Gupta's creation of SQL Windows was just a natural fit. It allowed my dad to create an application simply by writing in the tool. It allowed him to create visual, which automatically, just by writing in it, was, and still is, pure Windows-based client server based on SQL and relational databases, so it's easy to get information in and out. And that legacy really continues today too. For folks who know me, I think the SQL Windows tool is just a fantastic development environment. I haven't gushed about it so much over the past few years because of Visual's stated direction. However, now with the new direction with Visual, as of a month ago, I'm very happy to show what SQL Windows can do, and now with TD Mobile, things have just gotten even a lot better. In 1995, I was working with a boat trailer manufacturer, and they had can everybody see my screen, or do I need to share?
You need to share, actually. I don't think we can see the screen. There we go. Now it's coming up. Okay. There we go.
So in 1995, I did have some programming experience. Well, at least in college, I programmed a little bit. But honestly, in about a weekend, I created this using SQL Windows because it's so easy to program in. I was able to create this little VIN management system, and just I was able to create this graphical interface view you're looking at now that looks just like the label that they put on a boat trailer. And you would click on various things. You'd click on the dealer, which would look at the visual table for the customer. You'd select the order and the order line. That would bring over part information. The model of or the part knew how many axles it had. It knew this other axle information. Based upon that, you'd go in to generate the VIN number here. You'd fill out the length of the trailer. That would establish the digit number 7. Digit 9 is a check digit. You got to click on that, and it would do some background calculations, based upon the government regulations of what a check digit and a VIN number is supposed to be. It would come back with that. I would then hit accept. The user would hit accept VIN number, and it would populate back in this window. You'd post it to the order, and that would send it over to the sales order in Visual. So literally within a weekend, I was able to create this application for this company. And that's why Visual has so much functionality in it. I mean, it's been 20 years, and in a tool that a programmer will tell you can develop in twice as fast as standard programming. When I saw TD Mobile, I was floored, and frankly, and I'm even more so now after Horst's demo here of multiple pages, because I thought it was really easy, and I realized I was doing it the hard way. I'm a sales manager I'm director of sales for Synergy. All of our sales reps want to be able to see their opportunities. They want to be able to get in and edit the estimated close date, the stage of the opportunity, the amount of that sort of thing. And we use Visual CRM in-house. So this is pretty simple. I simply tied in to the opportunity table in CRM. And as Horst showed, this is really it. You've got the client side, and that is your phone or tablet, and you've got the server side. What's going on in the back end with the database. So you develop these.
I think Mark just cut out on us. I don't know if you can still hear us, Mark. We heard you for a sec, Mark. You're breaking up a little. I don't know. It may be because you're coming.
Am I back on now?
Yeah, you're back on now.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. When the page gets created, it invokes, as Horst showed, this operation. And again, this data operation was so simple. You literally I didn't have to write any code. I said what connection I wanted to use, and I simply have a connection string embedded here. I want to read the table. Here's the binding that contains all the fields. I don't even have to write out all the fields here. And then the identity binding. So what this does is it brings in an array. It pulls in an array of information from the list. And then when you select on a particular opportunity, it shows a little more detail. So I'll show you what that. So here's the detail page, and here's page 1 where it's going to show the list. So even that gory, I shouldn't even say gory because it was only one SQL statement, but that SQL statement that Horst showed in my application, I didn't even have to do that. This takes care of it. It just pulls everything into this array automatically because I'm dealing with a list binding. So here's my demo. There's not much to it. I'm going to go up to project. I'm going to hit go, which compiles and executes the application at the same time. So here are all my opportunities. Because I clicked on a button over on my list view, it has this filtering window, so I can say, show me all my opportunities that have 17 somewhere in them. And when I click on it, it goes to the detail page showing me the opportunity ID, description, estimated close date, and current stage opportunity amount. I can go back and choose another one, and it will show that detail. This particular application doesn't have edit capability, but that's pretty straightforward. If I wanted to go to the outline again on the detail page on the server level, instead of let me stop the application. And here, instead of doing just a read, I could have selected an edit, and in that case, I could have edited some of those columns as well. So I'm just floored how easy it is to write a web-based application accessing visuals data where you can provide any or all of your users with any of the information in the visual database. Really very, very impressive. Matt, unless there are any questions, back to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for just sharing. I just thought it was great to see, here's someone with a lot of heritage and history in visual, and actually showing how easy it can be to connect to the visual data source with this product, and see how quickly you could build some apps. So with that, what we are going to do is open this up for Q&A, for questions and answers. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the way you do that is use the Q&A button. It's up in the top right-hand corner with the question mark. And we'll go silent for 1 minute right now to let some of the initial questions come in. And then we'll come on and start going through those questions, and we'll go from there. And Mark, why don't you stay on as well, and just in case there's some questions specific to visual or to Synergy, and that way you can participate as a panelist.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
All right, the first questions have started to come in, so I'm going to go ahead and start going through these, and as this goes along, go ahead and continue to post. So the first question is, can you use TD Mobile to deploy applications to a web browser on a desktop, or is it just limited to the devices of smartphones and tablets? So the answer to that is yes, you can deploy these to a web browser on a desktop. In fact, I'm not sure about Mark's demo, but in Horst's demo, the examples he showed actually were showing on a web browser on a desktop, I believe, and which, as you probably could tell, I think it shows better on the devices like phones and tablets, just because all the controls are geared to those types of objects and the look and feel of that. But you can just as easily display these on the web browser on a desktop as well, because it is a web-based application. And Horst, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that answer.
No, not really. I mean, there's nothing specifically mobile-ish about the application that's created. The reason the word TD Mobile, the reason the word mobile is in the title is just that our generated client-side pages are based on a product called jQuery Mobile, and it's optimized in its look and feel for touchscreen devices and for that sort of form factor of the screen. So, but it works on any browser that supports HTML5. So, certainly you could develop a desktop application. Great.
Okay. Next question. Actually, the next question is around the device capabilities. It's saying, hey, does TD Mobile support integration into the gyroscope or motion detector? And the answer to that is yes. The short answer to that is yes. At a little more technical level, it all has to do in terms of the device capabilities. It has to do with what the support for those device capabilities are through the HTML5 APIs, and that is supported. In fact, we have a sample of that. There are some interesting applications to that. I mean, when I think of the gyroscope, I really thought of its use pretty much for games, for smartphones. But actually, there are some interesting applications out there for it in the enterprise level. I mean, one example, we were talking to a customer who, they have maintenance guys that go out on towers, like for electrical wires. And so they were looking at possibly having an app where, if it senses a drastic change in those gyroscope or motion detector, I want to say coordinates, but that's really more GPS, a sudden change in that to automatically send send kind of a message back to headquarters, if you will, because they're worried, something may have happened to the guy up on the tower. We also, one of our customers is kind of looking at it because they built an application kind of from a shipping logistics standpoint that their truck drivers are using, and they think there might be some applications for it along those lines. So anyway, it is supported, is the short answer. Next question. You mentioned Oracle, but didn't seem to focus on it. Does this fully work with Oracle now, and are you committed to working with Oracle? The answer to that is yes. This actually, TD Mobile can access really almost any SQL relational database. And we mentioned Oracle along with two other databases, SQL Server and then our own database, SQL Base. But it absolutely works with Oracle. It also works with Sybase. I think you can get to Informix as well. I'm not sure if anyone has done that yet, which is part of IBM now. And then, you know, there's things like MySQL. So it does work with all of those. And absolutely, you know, Oracle is the market-leading relational database out there. So we do work with it, and we have customers that use it. All right, next question. What about report writing? Is there report writing capabilities with this product? Horst, you want to answer this one? I'm doing all the talking.
I like it. I'm just leaning back, enjoying the webinar. It was about the report writing?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a brand new feature for T-Mobile 1.2, which is coming out in early January, so about a month and a half from now. And this is a web reporting feature. So the reports are actually generated on the server and served back to your application as either HTML or as a PDF. And there's a separate tool that will ship with 1.2 for designing your reports. You can lay the reports out and have break groups, headers and footers for pages and for the reports. And as far as using the reports from within the IDE or from within your application, it's so simple. There's a new operation type called a report operation. You just select the binding that has the data. You select the name of the report file that gives the actual design of the report, which is sitting on the server. And then there's an event action that you just say when you want the report run under the click of a button or a certain menu choice or whatever. And then when you're running the app, the report comes right up as HTML or PDF.
All right, great. So there's the answer. There's going to be report writing built into the next release of TD Mobile, which is coming out in January 2015. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, but we're at the hour mark anyway, so we should probably wrap this up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to our last slide here. But if you do have another question, feel free to post it while we conclude this, and we'll wrap it up. So first of all, we want to thank you for attending the webinar today. We hope you found it useful. When you exit out, you will get a survey with like 3 questions. Let us know what you thought. Is this the content you were expecting? Are there additional things you would like to hear about that you didn't get to hear on this webinar? And if there's future topics you'd like to see, suggest that as well, because we drive a lot of these webinar topics from those surveys, and it's only like 3 questions. The other thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, we did record this, so we will have the recording available on our website. And I brought up one of the links here on this page. It's below the image of the ATM cycle counting application here. But with that link, you can find, that's kind of the home page for TD Mobile on the Gupta site. And you can request a demo. You can see many samples, including those device integration things we've talked about. You can download a free trial version. And if you do, there's free training, online training available on our Gupta Academy, which you can get to from that page as well. And again, I just want to thank everyone for participating. I want to thank Horst for doing that demo. And I also want to thank Synergy and Mark Lilly for their involvement and participation as well. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us, and have a great day. Thank you.